Oh, live. Okay, very good. Welcome, everybody, to our Monday night Moshiach class, because Moshiach matters. And let's get diving right in here. Okay. This is, as I alluded to last week, one of the most powerful classes in the whole entire Nun Aleph Nun Beis sequence, Devar Malchus sequence that we've been learning. It's just top down, hands down, top five for sure, top three powerful sichos in this whole sequence. So yeah, let's hop right in. A lot of good stuff to cover. So this is Parshas Chayas Sarah, and the sicha was originally given in Tafshin Nun Beis, and it is was addressed to the Knesset Shluchim, to all the Chabad emissaries from around the world, and it is the most recent teaching we have from the Rebbe. As long as all these teachings we learn every Monday night are the most recent teachings we have from the Rebbe. Not all of them base are the literally the most recent sichos that we have, and this is the most recent time, as of yet, that the Rebbe had addressed the Knesset Shluchim, the congregation of all the Chabad emissaries from around the world, so we could understand how important and how pressing this message is that we are going to be delving into right now. So let's rock and roll. Okay, Aleph. Ba'amdeinu b'tchilasei or b'tzichasei shel Knesset Shluchim ha'olami. We are standing at the beginning of the opening of the gathering of emissaries from the entire world. Hashluchim Shichayav Shal Kaveh Kadashri Marvahadme Admon Nasi Derenu. The shluchim of the previous Rebbe, of the leader of the generation. As we know, the Rebbe always refers to his leadership as a continuation of his father-in-law's leadership. Okay. From the furthest corners of the world. And so, of course, we have to announce, first of all, the foundation, the V'ta es hatafkid shel hashluchim b'dreinu zeh haklal, to express the specific mission and job of the shluchim, of the emissaries in this generation in general. Ubeprat hachidush the noisef mimichad bizman ha'acharoin ba'avodas hashluchim, including specifically the unique and additional work and effort that we must put forth in our shlichut. The kabal penei Moshiach tzikenu begur mitzvah shlema, to literally accept the face and the inward dimension of Mashiach, our righteous Redeemer, in the true and complete redemption. Medubar kama pa'amim, as we have expressed many times, Noisefa hanakuda bispashtes klalos avodas hashluchs shel bnei Yisrael v'chol, in addition to the point in general of the service of the general work of the Jewish people, that every single Jew is an emissary of God. As is known, I was created only to serve my master. And specifically the emissaries of the leader of the generation. And this point of shlichut that is expressed specifically in our times. It's known that from time to time there's a unique aspect to our shlichut, to our work. Shehi hadoiras es koinene hashlichos he nasias shar shel yadoy. And this point, all of one's actions, his work, his shlichut, that he carries forth in this world must emphasize and be penetrated with this specific message. Shar shal yadoy only call inene hashlichos, and it should, all of one's work and shlichut should be elevated and travel through this point. How much more so does this apply in the general and specific manner of us in our generation? And this is not only a specific dimension of our shlichut, but it is a main and general point. And it is a general point of the entire Torah. To prepare ourselves for the coming of Mashiach. And this point, preparing for the full and final redemption, preparing for Mashiach, is the main points. And all of the work we do, all of the shlichut we do, must be surrounded and encompass this point. And has been expressed many times as of recently. Hold on a second. Is everything hello? Hello? Yeah. All right. Just making sure we're working. Okay. As is known, all the ends are already here. The final times. And has been announced by the previous Rebbe. Everyone has already done tshuva. Again, just to emphasize, that doesn't mean everyone has done tshuva completely. It means everyone at some point has thought about doing tshuva. In other words, there's enough of an energy towards that direction that we can't say that's holding anything back. Excuse me. And we have reached the completion of our general work. And all the buttons have been polished. And we're all standing prepared to receive and greet and welcome the face of our righteous Mashiach. And therefore, the main work of our shlichut now is the poal, the kabbalas panei Mashiach tzikenu before mamish, to stand ready in actuality to receive the face and the inward dimension of our righteous Redeemer Mashiach in actuality, reality, right now. And from this we can understand that the main goal and the point of this entire gathering of all the emissaries from around the world must be expressed in this point. That we must take upon ourselves good resolutions that should be fulfilled in actuality. In order to figure out and discuss how we are going to bring about specifically what mission and how we're going to do it. To do what? Kabbalas panei Mashiach tzikenu, to literally greet and receive the face and the inner dimension of our righteous Redeemer Mashiach. With a bomb, the Rebbe opens up in the first paragraph. He tells us five times, that this is the only left work. Only work left is the proper English. To welcome and greet Mashiach. Everything else is completed. As a nation in general, this is what is left to do. Base. Excuse me. I don't know why that thing keeps flashing. And the relevance to the service of our work in Mashiach Tzikenu, with Mashiach himself. Toivan b'chasbaras ashichoisoi shel Mashiach atzma. Adinin v'gader hashlichus v'chlau. We're going to speak about the connection to Mashiach and this idea of shlichut. We're sending out emissaries, representatives. All the pasuk. Shlach na b'yat yishlach. So now we're going to talk about this concept of a shliach, of an emissary, and what it means according to the Torah. And the first thing we see is a pasuk that Moshe Rabbeinu said to Hashem when Hashem sent him to Egypt to redeem the Jewish people. Moshe's response to God was not, all right, let's do it. He said, Shlach na b'yat yishlach. Don't send me. Send by the hand of the one who you will send. What does it mean? Our rabbis teaches. Amar Moshe lefanav, Rabbeinu shel oidam, Shlach na b'yat tishlach, b'yat Mashiach, shehi asi legalus. Moshe basically said to Hashem, don't send me, because I'm not Mashiach. Send Mashiach now. If you want to redeem the Jewish people from Egypt, to put them in another exile, just take them out. Put an end to this concept of exile and bring about redemption right now. How? By sending Mashiach. And therefore we see that Mashiach is actually a shliach, according to the Torah. He's a representative. And who is a representative of? Of Hashem, the Golas Yisrael. In other words, it's this concept of Mashiach is not, Mashiach didn't think of Mashiach. Mashiach isn't the one who said, I have an idea, I want to be Mashiach. God said, I'm going to send a representative, my representative. Mashiach, or a Jewish king, is literally God's representative of kingship down here in this physical world. And therefore it said, I'm sending a shliach to represent me, to redeem the Jewish people. That's the job of Mashiach. Atam b'pashtus laman b'kayesh as says Moshe, he compares Rashi al hapasuk b'yad achar shetaratze d'shluach she'ein soifi niknesim le'eretz v'yizos gol nasi yad lecha shluchim harbeh. So he said, there's many emissaries God has. So again, Moshe is saying, why are you sending me? Send the one who's going to redeem the Jewish people. Moshe Shlach es Moshiach. Yois Gua shall Israel gam b'Mitzrayim. I will tzrich lahavin, but we have to understand. V'dai havi Moshe b'prat shehu haya shleimus hachma kedusha. Moshe was the highest of holiness and wisdom. Shakodesh bo atzma yido shehu asi shluach es Mashiach, and God obviously knew that he wasn't sending Moshe to be Mashiach. He knew he was going to send Mashiach to be Mashiach, to redeem the Jewish people in the future. Nevertheless, God said, I'm choosing you to take the Jewish people out of Egypt. So the question is, why is Moshe saying such a thing to God? Why doesn't he send God? Why is he telling God, hey, send by the one in the hand you're going to send. Send by Mashiach. God knows what he's doing. Why didn't Moshe just agree to the job? So let's explain this in a little bit of a different way. So again, Moshe was the wisest and the holiest. Why is he saying such a thing to God? Why don't he just fulfill the task that he was chosen for, redeem the Jewish people from Egypt? Yesh l'mor is to say shehi hanetenes hayois shezeh b'kashve v'tze'ah shel Moshe Rabbeinu haya achin kiyam b'bafo shleach HaKadosh Baruch Hu shalach l'go es Yisrael miMitzrayim oisei atzma hu sholach l'go es Yisrael asid kafi shamar b'droish Moshe Hazal God Rishon Hu God Acharayim. We say that Moshe is the first redeemer and he's the last redeemer. But what does that mean? because we know he's not the last Redeemer. Mashiach's the last Redeemer. The kasheres hagoa harishoyin ugoa haroin שגם גאולה הראשונה תהיה קשור עם ביאת תשלח, וגם גאולה האחרונה תהיה קשור עם משה. In other words, אף על פי כן שמשה משיח הם שני אנשי שונים, even though that we know that Mashiach and Moshe are two different people, right? Moshe is from the tribe of Levi, Mashiach is from the tribe of Yehuda, Beit David. Hey, Nahavim Shnei Ninim Nifradim, two different tribes and two different missions. Hey, Miskashirim Me'achdim Zeh Im Zeh Kadakama. But there's a connection between these two, as we will explain now. Gimel. Einin yuvan b'hakdama zod bior b'klalus geder hashliach shlichus b'torah. So now we're going to talk again about this general concept of what it means to be a shliach, what it means to be an emissary. Aha, mishlichos rishoina shemois efes b'torah. Parsha Seinu. This week's Torah portion is the first time we have a mention of, in the Torah, the concept of a shliach, of an emissary, of someone sending another person to represent them or fulfill their mission. Shlichai shalach Avraham Eliezer lemetzol deseis shirach avor Yitzchak manu. Avraham Avinu in this week's Parsha Chayesera sent his assistant Eliezer to find a wife for Yitzchak his son. And we know that he fulfilled his task because he found a wife for Yitzchak, Rivka. Yesh makom hakor begeder uvidin Eliezer b'kyoin divrei Avraham alav. So he sent him out to investigate and find Eliezer, a wife, as we said. Lakachas isha lebnei Yitzchak. Find a wife for my son Yitzchak. Sheyesh lefrash ez bekam ofani. So there's many things that were placed upon this. Aleph, Eliezer shliach. Aya the kedushin sheshluchoi shel adam kamoisai. That he sent Eliezer as a shliach, as a representative, to effectuate the kedushin, to bring about the marriage between Yitzchak and Rivka. That is one possibility, and we say a shliach is adam kamoisei, is like the one who sent him. It's like an extension, like an arm that extends out. That a shliach represents the one who sends him and fulfills the mission that he's sent to do. That's what it means to be a shliach in a general sense. So that's one option. The second option is Eliezer haya begeder shadchan, that Eliezer was not in fact a shliach, but a shadchan, a matchmaker. Lemotze Aisha Yitzchak, to find a wife for his son Yitzchak. Oh, afilu shadchan the kiddush. Afal b'chein shegam shidach. Shadchan b'choichoy lekadesh. Ein ze oisei koach kamo shliach. But a shadchan, a matchmaker, does not have the power of a shliach. He is not like the one who sent him. A matchmaker is not an extension of the one who sent him. Masha ein kein benogad shadchan ein oimri shadchan shagadam kamois. It's not the same thing. Rather, Rabba shadchan hu ufaroish lo kamois. Emissary, a matchmaker specifically, not like the one who sent him. Eda kadam achar oise toivet l'shnei. Rather, he sent for a specific thing to look for ways to find favorable, light in one thing or another. Anyone who's ever worked with a shadchan, a matchmaker, knows they all lie. They don't say exactly what the person tells them. They bend the truth a little bit. They, their job is to get these two people to come together. God chooses that these two people that may not make logical sense are supposed to be married. So the shadchan doesn't get in the way of that. In fact, the shadchan sometimes says, "Oh yeah, she's like this, and he's like this, and he's like this, and he's like that," and they don't exactly do exactly what the one sent them because they're looking to sell, so to speak, this person to the other person. So it's not like the one who sent them. It's not like a shirach. And if we say that Eliezer was a shadchan, was a matchmaker, then therefore we have to say he was not like a shliach. He was not like the one who sent them, like Abraham. Ela k'metzias nifradas, kafisha mashma. Rather, he is someone who has his own opinion, and is not acting with an extension of the one who sent him. Kafisha mashma, and this implies Zesh Eliezer haya v'chazar lemotze elav she'amar lo Avraham v'fanos alav v'chashias bito. One example that we could go to try to show that Eliezer was not a shliach but a shadchan in a matchmaker is he tried to stick his own daughter there. He said, "I got a perfect match for your son. How about my daughter?" And we know Avraham basically said, "No can do. It's not going to work. Your daughter's cursed, my son is blessed. Sorry, it's not going to. It's fine. It's what does it say? Oil and water. They don't mix together. Not going to happen." And therefore, there is a place for him to enter his own private will, if you will, which based on that logic, we say that maybe he's not a shliach. He's just a matchmaker. But explaining it in a different way, Eliezer was a respected elder that Avraham gave a lot of leeway to. Shemosha b'Torah Rabo Dola Makasha Mashka, excuse me. Eved Abraham says in many places he was a servant of Abraham, a faithful servant. Asher Eved Melech Melech, and it says a servant of a king is like a king himself because he's carrying out the will of the king. The Gambi claims he Abraham also it fulfills the commandment of Abraham. The Kachas Isha Lebanei Yitzchak to find a wife for my son Yitzchak. Kiram Eliezer Hakol B'Diuk Kidir Abraham. So Eliezer was in fact carrying out the will of Abraham. So what's the problem? He stuck his daughter in there as an option. He said, "Find me a wife." He said, "Okay, let me give my daughter a shot." What does that mean? Does that mean he's not carrying out the will of Abraham? Let's see. Abraham never, and also we see that Abraham had him swear. He made a swear, put his hand under his thigh, and from this we can see the Kadesh es Rivka. It seemed in fact that he was a shliach because by every order that was given, he was carrying it out. That's what he was doing. ויש לומר שדבר הזה מובן גם ממש כסוף ויקח העבד 10 גמלים מגמלי אדוניו. And on top of it, Abraham stacked Eliezer up. He gave him all his stuff. He gave him his camels and everything that was valuable of his master he placed in his hand. He put a tremendous amount of trust in Eliezer. He basically handed everything over to him and said, "Here's all my stuff that I'm giving to my son and my future daughter-in-law." Kafish Mafarshim Ma'avrim Sheliezer Hazik Bereshusai called Toiv Adonai, that Eliezer was given a tremendous amount of trust, if you will, through helping out his master, because everything was placed in his hand. And therefore, he was to act according to the will of Abraham, that Abraham trusted him implicitly and said, I'm tasking you to do this task, and I'm giving you tremendous trust and leeway to get it done. L'chora, איך היה יכול אברהם למסר כל אשר לו לאדם, שעליו יכול להיות ספק אם ישתמש בזה כדברי. So it seems that Abraham, again, gave Eliezer everything. And therefore, he had complete trust in him to use the things in the right way. And from this we can see that Eliezer was in fact a devoted servant to Abraham, because otherwise Abraham would have not entrusted him with all of his stuff. And therefore we have to say, it appears to be, that he was in fact a real shliach, a real emissary, an extension of Abraham, because his entire existence was an extension of the one who sent him, of Abraham. And therefore Abraham basically said, everything that I own, I'm giving to you. That's the level of trust I have in you to pass it on. And therefore, there's not much of a doubt that, in fact, he did represent Abraham as a shliach, as a true emissary. Dalit. Klatz kashya. So the Rebbe says you have a klatz kashya, which is like a bomb question in Yiddish. It's a heavy question that arises. Al zeh shtara metanas katav yitzkak al kol ish asher eloi kedei shekatzfu shluach lo veta. The question is, Abraham gave a shtar, gave basically a legal document to Eliezer and said, this is for my son and his future wife, and I'm hereby bequeathing over all of my possessions. Everything I have, I'm giving to him. So the Rebbe said, this is a question. First of all, even according to basic halacha and tzedakah, one is forbidden from giving away everything. It says you should never put yourself in a position where you have to become a beggar, God forbid, that you should give away everything you have. Therefore, one is forbidden for giving away everything, according to halacha. So why would Abraham give every single thing he owned to Yitzchak? It doesn't make sense. To Eliezer to give to Yitzchak. Prat, and specifically, Abraham as ben kuf mem shana. Abraham at the time was 140 years old. And so in fact, he lived afterwards 35 years, because he lived to 175. And he was 140 when he wrote this document. So why would he give away? It's one thing if we say, all right, he's on his dying bed. He's dying. He only has a short time left to live, a few weeks. He's giving everything he has to Yitzchak, but that's not the case. He had 35 more years to live. And here he is giving away everything he has. Doesn't make sense. Could have given him a lot. He was a very wealthy man. Everything? But Penimius v'ninim afshar hayad avora zois al pi mashnamar, and to decipher this in a Kabbalistic way, from a Penimi, we say from an inward dimension of why he did such a thing. Because it says like this: Yitzchak ben Abraham, Abraham holed Yitzchak. That Yitzchak is the son of Abraham, and Abraham gave birth to Yitzchak. So rabbis teach us, Klastar panav shel Yitzchak doimed Abraham. It's known that the face of Yitzchak was literally identical to the face of Abraham. There's a whole story that someone wouldn't, God forbid, think that maybe it was Abimelech who had relations with Sarah when she got taken away. So Sarah was so old, how can it be? Yitzchak was Abraham was so old. So God made sure there's no doubt in anyone's mind that this was going to be Abraham's son, because he made their faces identical. And therefore, from an inner dimension, their beings were one countenance, if you will. Because all the forefathers are a chariot of God. But we still have to explain this in a halachic, in a simple way. So from a deep Kabbalistic way, Yitzchak and Abraham, they're all part of the same chariot between Abraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. And therefore, giving to one, you're giving to all. So it's not really a transfer, because they make up one unit, which is called a Merkava, a chariot of God. Abraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, right, left, and middle. And that is the chariot that carries this general energy. So therefore we say, according to Kabbalah and Chassidus, that he was really not giving the money, so to speak, and all his possessions away to Abraham, from Abraham to Yitzchak, because Abraham and Yitzchak literally are the same person. But we still have to explain this according to Nigla, according to the simple meaning of the Torah. Nasiyeh, Yitzchak v'Rivka, that the marriage between Yitzchak and Rivka, and Nisuim, Harishonim, Hakasuvim b'Torah. This is the first written marriage in the Torah. There's no other, accounting in the Torah for any marriages. Adam and Chava were not married, were not discussed. I mean, they were married, but didn't discuss their marriage in the Torah. Abraham and Sarah, no discussion. This is the first place in the Torah where it's written about a marriage. And the Rebbe goes on to say that this is not a private marriage between Yitzchak and Rivka, between two Jews. But it was a general marriage. That it was the first marriage between a Jewish couple after the fulfillment of the mitzvah of Mila. In other words, after there was really, Abraham became a Jew, really, officially after he gave himself a bris. And this is the first marriage after that. And it's the only time in the Torah that it's written about, but it's the only actual first marriage after that. And even more than that, all their offspring, which brought forth Yaakov Avinu, became all of the Jewish people. In other words, that this was the continuation of all the Jewish people came from this marriage. Klomar, in other words, in addition to being just a private marriage between Yitzchak and Rivka, it was a general marriage for all the Jewish people. And we're going to explain now why it was considered a general marriage for all of us. The concept how he gave everything away to Yitzchak, his son. He gave everything away because it was not that he's giving this everything away just to his son in the specific marriage, because al nisuim shel kol Yisrael, he was giving it away to all the Jewish people because it was a general marriage. What does that mean? automatically we see how this is also connected to Abraham himself. He was the first Jew. Mishum kach hu hakenis b'zeh es kol koichai. And therefore it was important that he had to give all of his power, someone's wealth, someone's money, someone's let me just make it simple. Every day when we say the Shema, right? Shema Yisrael Shem Elokeinu v'ahavta Shem Elokecha v'kol nafshecha v'kol me'odecha. All of your heart, all of your soul, and all of your might. Me'odecha, your might, is translated to money, because you have to work hard. Most people do to get to make money. And when someone puts their blood, sweat, and tears into something, it's their power that generates that money. That's why the mitzvah of tzedakah is called the general mitzvah, and it's a hard one, because you're putting your power into earning money, and now you're taking from the money that you earn from the sweat of your brow, and you're giving it to those less fortunate. So when Avraham gave everything to Yitzchak, it wasn't just the money. It was all his power. He had to put everything into his offspring, because his offspring, Yitzchak, not only represented him and his wife, but it represented the power that Abraham was bequeathing to all the Jewish people. And that's what it says now. It wasn't that he was just a father of Yitzchak in a personal way. No, matim ein shitan kol shelo tunas benoy rachelek hu nosim boy. Chelik hu mishar had Abraham. Avu ma'achar of nisuim halu as inyan hakli haklali. Shemakiv as kol Yisrael. Because again, this was a general energy, a general power that he's giving over not just to Avraham and Rivka, but to all the Jewish people. And therefore, he had to go all in with his money, with his power. He couldn't hold anything back. And therefore, he had to put all his power, all his essence into it. It couldn't just be a part of him. Or anything that was separated from him, God forbid. But he had to put everything in. His whole entire being, everything. Right? So, if you just look from an energy standpoint, Abraham represents the energy of Chesed, and Yitzchak represents the energy of Gevurah. So that energy to go from one sphere to the next, nothing could be held back. It has to be full power. If you don't put all your energy and power into something, you're holding something back. It's not a matter of. I don't even talk about it because it starts making me angry. But it's like Israel keeps making the same mistake over and over and over and over and over and over again. The state of Israel. We go in, we conquer our enemies up to a point, and we say, we gave them a decisive blow, and we pull away and we leave. What do you think Hamas is doing right now? You think Hamas is figuring out where to bury their weapons and how to surrender? They're reorganizing their things. God forbid, but any day you're going to see again a massive attack coming from all directions. And they know it. It's complete insanity. In other words, you have to finish the job. And to finish the job, you have to want to win. And you have to have a game plan to win. So Abraham's game plan, if you will, to finish the job, meaning he had to transfer all of his power, all of his energy into the next phase for the development of the Jewish people, not just his son, but the Jewish people at large. And that meant all of his money, all of his power, all of his energy. It's like the master is ready to pass on, and he has to teach everything he knows to the student to continue on the lineage, if you will, of the teachings. So if he holds something back, something's going to be lacking. So it's this concept, and there's a powerful lesson for us, right? You've got to, sometimes in life, when you want to be successful and stuff, you got to go all in. You can't half step it, right? We always half step because we're afraid. What if it doesn't work? What if to hesitate means to die, right? You can't. You got to go all in, right? And that's what Abraham did. So again, it's not just his money, it's his power. And therefore, he had to be fully vested. Because this marriage came about specifically from the power of Abraham. And therefore, it's necessary for everything. He couldn't just give him and say, throw him a few camels. He could have given him half and it would have been ridiculously wealthy. But it wasn't just the money again. It's representing all power, all the way in. And according to in a deeper way, we could say, now for sure we're coming to the conclusion that Eliezer could not have been a shadchan. He could not have been only a matchmaker, but he had to have been an emissary shliach, a representative, an emissary. Because we see that he literally carried out the will of the one who sent him, his master Abraham. Had to be absolute, all in. He couldn't leave anything out. It wasn't a matter of saying, you know what, let me set aside some of these diamonds and a few camels. You don't need those. Nope. Everything had to go on. And also we see this as a connected to Eliezer. His whole being was vested in Abraham. He wasn't his faithful servant, shliach, emissary, representative, 50%, 70%, 80%, all in. And therefore he didn't have a separate mitzias. He was an extension of Abraham, which makes it again a real shliach, a real representative, a real emissary. Vav. And now we're going to take this down and break it down even deeper. And always just keep in the front of your minds that this is the most recent conversation that the Rebbe had to the shluchim in general. So you can imagine how powerful and how important these words are. The Alter Rebbe, in his famous Hemshech B'Likuti Torah, in Parshas Bracha towards the end, speaks about the marriage of Yitzchak and Rivka in Inyan Haki Klali as a general marriage. But Torah Bakal Seder Histashtus and represents all the chain of creation. Hamashkaf as Klal Savaras Adam encompasses also in general the service of man. Yichud Ma Yitzchak V'ban Rivka. This is some important stuff right here. He explains like this. Yitzchak represents what we say is the divine name of Ma, Memhe, which is the Vav in God's name, Yud He Vav He. And Rivka represents the divine name Ban, which is the final He in God's name. Ma and Ban. Ma is known as masculine energy, or the soul, or the spiritual component. And Ban is representing the physical energy, or the female receptive component. Interesting enough, because Ban is the completion of God's name. We know that God's, one of his highest names, known as the Tetragrammaton, Yud He Vav He, represents the 4 different spellings out of Yud He Vav He and different filling out of the words. And God's name for the Yud, which is Ab, which is Chochmah, and the name for the first He, which is Bina or Sag, 7263. The third name is Ma, which is the Vav, which is Gematria 45. And the fourth is known as Ban, Gematria 52, which is the lowest aspect, which is the highest. So interesting enough, because Ban is Malchus. It's the physical world. It's the ultimate completion of all of creation. The whole purpose of creation is not to make it up to heaven, but to bring heaven down to earth and transform this world into a dwelling place for God. And these sikhs we're learning are from Nun Base. What is Nun Base? It's Ban, if you switch the letters. In other words, the most recent teachings we have from the Rebbe, your Nun Base, again, Nun Base is Ban, it's Beit and Nun, are reflecting Ban, which is the ultimate physical purpose of all of creation, the lower Hay, or Malchus in this world. It's not a coincidence. But anyways, Yitzchak represents Ma and Rivka Ban. Again, masculine and feminine. Explain it a different way. It's the unification of the soul, which is Ma, the masculine or spiritual energy, and the body, which is Ban, which is the feminine or physical energy of every Jew. Ad shleimus hayichud hanisuim ben Yisrael, the Kodesh Baruch Hu. And this represents the completion and unification of the marriage between God and the Jewish people. Yisrael v'Kodesh Baruch Hu kulu chad, because God and the Jewish people are truly one. Kafi shezehu b'go l'mitzvah tashleimu, and this will be revealed in the true and complete redemption. So, I don't want to get too ahead of ourselves because we're going to dig into this. But this is monstrous right here. This is literally all of our work. The whole point of creation is to build a dwelling place for God. And we see why, according to Kabbalah, especially the Kabbalah of the Arizal, there's so many illusions between God and the Jewish people and a husband and his wife, between the sexual or intimacy of coming together between a man and his wife and God and the Jewish people. And it's so important to understand the parallels between this, between masculine and feminine energy, with the husband representing Ma and the wife representing Ban, and the wife being the vessel for the husband's blessing, just like the womb is the vessel for the seed. She's the blessing for his parnassah, for all his financial things, for all the money, how he treats her, how his respect for her. All the energy of financial success. It says in the Gemara, you don't want to say this too loud, but when it comes to matters of gashmis, of material things, you should always listen to your wife. Spiritual, the spiritual is your domain. This is we saw Ma. This is the spiritual energy. But physical, material, this is the woman's domain. And they have to come together. So Yitzchak and Rivka don't represent just two people. They represent this divine energy, which is the whole purpose of creation. And they have to be seamless. Chochmah and Bina, according to Kabbalah, are the two twins that never separate. That means that the energy between Chochmah and Bina, I'm going to throw a crazy thing out there, and I don't have a basis in exact numbers, but I would say easy 70, 80%, maybe higher, of problematic children and youth are a direct consequence of problematic energy between the husband and wife and the mother and father. And it's just basic Kabbalah and Chassidus. When Chochmah and Bina are not face-to-face, when the energy is not equal, when there's a higher energy and a lower energy, they're not supposed to be one over the other. They're supposed to be face-to-face like this. Adam and Chava were back-to-back. God split them. The whole goal is to come back face-to-face. When Chochmah and Bina are in a state of mutual energy and the energy flows between them, all the offspring, that means your emotional offspring, it means your physical children, your spiritual children, your money, your shalom bias, all of that energy flows in a proper way. When that energy is not balanced, you've got problems. It's the same thing with us and God. The goal is to have a face-to-face relationship with God. If the relationship with God is soured because God is not doing or acting in the way we want him to act, that he's not giving us what we want, that we feel we're deprived somehow, we feel that God is screwing up our lives, he's making it hard. Whatever complaints we have against God, we're causing a back-to-back relationship. So if we want God to overcome our shortcomings and to look at us in a favorable eye, well, we have to do the same thing with our wives, and we have to do the same thing with God. In other words, if our relationship with God is based on God, you've been really good to me, I'm here to help you, or God, I don't like the way you've been treating me. I don't like the way things have been going in my life. I'm not going over and abort for you. The second those energies come into play, things get off kilter and everything gets messed up. Physical can't be higher than spiritual, and spiritual can't be higher than physical. It has to be in a state of flow, in a state of oneness. Okay, that was enough babbling for now. Let's go back inside. And this relationship between Ma and Ban, between masculine and feminine energy, between God and the Jewish people, between a husband and wife, is the general service of fulfilling the entire Torah and all the mitzvot. It says in I forgot what in a sect in the Gemara in the Talmud that a man's main mission in this world is shalom bayis with his wife. That is his eager mission. Yes, we're shluchim of the Rebbe. Yes, we have to conquer the world. Yes, we have to go out and bring Mashiach. And yes, we have to do so many things in the outside world. But the main work is in the home. Because our wife is reflecting us. And God doesn't put a grizzly bear with a dove. I don't mean you dove, I meant a bird, a dove. Meaning God puts every couple together for a specific reason. And this is really the difficult work, and it's the main work. It's the main work of balancing those energies out. And that's what the Rebbe says now. This is the main work of the whole world, to unify Ma and Ban. Yichud shel Ma v'Ban, to bring together the unification of masculine and feminine energies, soul and body. We know that when we got the Torah, this was the main thing, is it broke the gezerah, it broke the decree, that before spiritual couldn't come down and physical couldn't go up. There was a separation. And after the giving of the Torah, we were given the power to unite physical and spiritual, hagufa gashmi, in a physical body, hadarva gashmi yashar kodesh, and to turn physicality into something holy. And that it should be permeated with holiness. And this will be manifest in its full estate in the true and complete redemption. The Torah, and according to this, it explains in the Kuti Torah, the Torah goes to great length to talk about the shlichus of Eliezer. We know that the main work of Eliezer was to bring about the marriage between Yitzchak and Rivka. And it wasn't just to bring about their coming together as a marriage, as a couple, as we said already, but in a panemius, to bring about the unification of these two energies, Ma and Ban, spiritual and physical. Bepashtus, Rivka haya mitzivoy b'Padan Aram. Rivka was found in Padan Aram, outside the land of Israel. Etzlo Betuel ha'Arami, Relavan ha'Arami, the not from exactly what we would say the choicest family member she came from, and she represents this level of Ban, physicality. And the job of Eliezer was to bring about this marriage, and to bring about a fitting vessel for Ma, for the energy, the spirituality of Yitzchak. That they should become one flesh, Ma and Ban. And to build a Jewish home in this physical world, and to have offspring, shutam, in the simplest sense. Shemehem boim called Yisrael od seif lakal duris, and from them would continue out the offspring, the continued generations until the end of all times. ועל פי זה מובן שהשליחה של אליעזר ניתנת את הכוח לפעול עבודה של ייחוד מהבן ועבודת השם הרבמתו. And the work of Eliezer to bring about this unification, that he was given the power to bring about this service of unifying Ma and Ban, which is the true service of God. And this is what the whole Torah is about. And this is an energy that is to be brought down in all times and all places. And of course, it will reach its completion in the true and complete redemption. ויש לומר this to say ששליחויס וכלליס של אליעזר מרומזס גם כן במה שאמר עבד אברהם אבינו. We know again that he was a servant of Abraham Avinu. וידוע שמאברהם הקנה למתן תורה זה הרמז עבד אברהם אנוכי. We know that Abraham was the forerunner that we learned last week, that his Lech Lecha was going out to prepare us for giving of the Torah, and therefore we see that his servant of Abraham, Eliezer, Abraham had to put full power in him in order for him to carry out this mission. Because again, he wasn't just bringing about the mission between Yitzchak and Rivke, but he's bringing about the mission between the energy of Ma and Ban, the completion of the whole purpose of why we're here in this world. And this, of course, was the beginning and the preparation to bring about the Torah. Zion. But we still have to understand. According to what we said above, we had a tremendous long explanation about how Eliezer went about bringing about this marriage together. And the main thing is not really about the shlichus of Eliezer, but to bring about the unification of Man Ban. Right? That's really what all this is about. Nevertheless, the Torah spends a great amount of time speaking about the actual process of bringing it about. So why is so much emphasis being placed on the shlichut, on the actual work? Why isn't the emphasis placed on the marriage, right? Where was the long discussion about their wedding celebration and all the guests and what happened at the wedding? It's not there. Yet the whole long Torah portion is all about how he's sending them out and what his mission is and how he's looking for and how he finds it. Like, why is that really essential? Isn't the main thing the actual marriage? Excuse me. Everything was about the details, the swearing, where you're going, where to find it, or what's going on. It was all about the lead up, right? It's like you have a very long entranceway in a tiny house. Like from this we can understand that the shlichus of Eliezer, that is connected to the essence of unifying Man Ban in actuality, and according to this, we can see why Eliezer specifically is called a shliach. because he was sent to bring about the actual service of drawing down and unifying Ma and Ban. Again, it's not just a private marriage. צריך להיות כך גם אצל האדם בפועל זויס של מציאות בפני עצמן. So it's necessary thus to bring about a person, his work, this existence of it in and of itself, which is Ban, ומציאות זה מזבט באחד עם השליח. מה? שזהו עניין של שליח דווקא. Oh, so he wants to emphasize this point that a shliach specifically has to be nullified to the one who sent him, ma, which is the energy. You have to follow the task that is incumbent upon you. But at the same time, you have to use your own existence, which is ban. So in other words, it doesn't mean that you're a robot. It means that you have a mission that you need to carry out. And the general mission is given to you. But the specific details of how you're going to do it, that's on you. That's what makes what you have to bring to the table, right? You know, just look at the general idea of shluchot. There's thousands of shluchim around the world. Each one's in a different location. They all have a general shluchot to bring Moshiach, right? That's the general idea. How to do that? Everyone has their own kind of flavor on how they're doing that, right? Shliach morchav mishnei ninim hafuchim. And a shliach must combine these two opposite things. Aleph, alav hiyois mitzios nifaras mishlach bar das b'fnei atzmai. One is the realization that he is an individual, and an individual has a brain and emotions and a body, and therefore he is physically not the same as the one who sent him. He has to use his own abilities and tools. And base Allah beto mashliach. At the same time, he has to be completely nullified, that his will must be the same as the one who sent him. And it must be recognizable that he is an emissary of this person. And he cannot have a different will and knowledge from the one who sent him. It's got to be obvious, right? When you talk to a shliach of the Rebbe, it should be obvious that this person is a shliach of the Rebbe, and they are here to fulfill the shlichus of the Rebbe. Not that they're here for some other purpose or some other reason. And if he changes from the knowledge or the instruction of the one who sent him, he stops from being an emissary. He's no longer an emissary anymore, because now he's mixing it in his own concept of his purpose. Until it's he has to literally be like the one who sent him. Meaning, it has to be very clear that your mission is the same as the mission of the one who sent you. And your general will and knowledge of what you're doing has to align with the one who sent you to do it. And this is the whole idea of unifying Ma and Ban, Neshama, soul, which is Ma, Shel Yehudi of a Jew, that the soul of a Jew must be one in a revealed way with God. In other words, let me continue. Neshama nishnata b'torah, the soul you placed inside of me is pure. It is literally a portion of God. So it should be, and the way it will be when Mashiach comes, obvious that a Jew is carrying out the mission of God. If things were run the way they're supposed to be, every single person in the world should look at a Jew and say, wow, you're doing God's work. You are a representative of God. I could tell by, It exudes out of you. It just comes out of you, right? It's like it should be that apparent. Have you seen like there's like I don't like a teacher, for example. There are teachers who just, they're paper pushers, they're paycheck players. They clock on the clock, they clock out, they can't wait. These kids drive them nuts. And there's teachers that it's in their kishkas, it's in their bones. They love to teach. They get excited when they teach. They see a student learning and it lights them up. That's how we're supposed to be as Jews. That we're supposed to be literally in complete alignment with the one who sent us, which is God. And that alignment must be so clear that we're here to build a dwelling place for God, that we're here to transform the world into a dwelling place for God, that we're here to bring Mashiach. It should be apparent openly that every Jew is a shliach of God. That is sent down here into a physical body. In the physical world. This is Ban. Ban is the physicality. Ma or Za is likened to heaven. And Ban or Malchus is likened to earth. So our heavenly existence should manifest in this physical world. I have created, I have formed it, and I've blown it into you, your soul. That every Jew is here to bring about the unification of Man Ban. To take our soul and put it in our physical body, and that our physical being should reflect and reveal godliness. Shouldn't have to start talking words of Torah to show, wow, look, oh wow, this is a Jew. He speaks words of Torah. His very essence should reveal that. The second you see him, the way he walks, the way he talks, the way he presents himself, the way he looks, the way he treats his family, the way he treats his friends, the way he treats his neighbors, the way his reputation in the community. Every little aspect of that person's life should be a dogma, a representative of God. Shagam kafi hanashama nimtzas beguf, and the way we find the soul inside of a body. It should reflect and reveal his true existence, as we just said. That is, the light of his soul should shine through his body. And the body should be nullified to the soul. And the soul and the body should literally be one entity. A faculty, a vehicle to serve God by learning Torah and fulfilling his will by doing mitzvot. Specifically as he is involved in material things. To draw down and reveal God into the physical world. And this is the work of every Jew, that it should be penetrated and recognizable, the oneness, the unity with his soul and his body, Ma and Ban, with God. A living, walking billboard for Hashem. And this is the work of a person. Kamoho mamash, literally, that we should reflect God. Every Jew. And therefore, for sure, we must say Eliezer was a shliach in order to bring about the marriage of Yitzchak and Rivka. That the job of the shliach is to bring about a completion between these two energies, Ma and Ban. And his entire existence must represent this, the same as the one who sent him. And furthermore, we can say that his entire being and his entire existence was given over in order to bring about the unification of Man Ban. Avraham had to give everything. Otherwise, you can't do it. This is not a 95% game. It's an all or nothing. Either the soul and the body are aligned or they're not. They can be close, but it's not the same thing, right? And it will reach its ultimate completion in the true and complete redemption. Shall call the mitzvahs. And then all the chain of creation and all the Torah and mitzvahs will manifest and reflect this oneness of God. And nothing will exist outside of this. And therefore Abraham had to go all in. And specifically because he had to give forth the power to unify Ma and Ban. Abraham had to give it all over. And this is the same, there's so much depth to what we're going through now that we could bring about this all night, which we don't have, but we could. And there's so many messages here. Oh, wow. Just like Abraham had to give everything, we have to do the same thing. Being a Jew, committed to our mission here in the world for God, it's not a part-time thing. It's not a sometime thing. It's an all the time thing. It's something that we must really go all in on, or it doesn't happen. And it's the same thing with our marriages. A marriage, it just can't, a back-to-back marriage doesn't work. I tried it. It doesn't work. A back-to-back marriage is where just like, all right, whatever. I don't get along with you. You don't get along with me. So let's just make this business relationship. I bring in the money. You take care of the house. And, hi, bye. It's never going to work. It can't. It's the energy. It's that same energy, that same power that Abraham had to give everything to Eliezer because he needed everything to flow to Yitzchak. You can't, in order to bring about two opposite energies, masculine and feminine, God and the Jewish people, a husband and wife, physical and spiritual. It's not something that you can, do with one hand tied behind your back while you're, like talking to another person. It requires a tremendous amount of power. And that power, there can't be any holes in the power. It has to literally be a full-on commitment. And if it is, it works. And if it's not, well, it doesn't. It's like I said, it's either the energy is attracting or it's pushing away. It's very hard. I could talk about this for days because I've experienced it. And it's also with ourselves. You can't kind of work on yourself a little bit, and fix a little bit and leave a little bit. And, I'm okay. Yeah, I figure I'm going to, you got to go in and you got to tackle that energy. You got to remove that unwanted energy inside. Otherwise, you can't come face to face with what is known as your Adam Milyon, your true self. It'll always be a separation. You always go around feeling like something's missing. Yes. So there's a wondrous thing we can learn out from this. According to the teachings of Chassidut. The Parsha Yitzchak as it's connected this week's Parsha. Eno Mofia but Torah Or but Parshas Chayesera. We know in Torah Or we spoke about from the Alter Rebbe that this marriage between Yitzchak and Rivka was not spoken about in Torah Or in the proper place in Parshas Chayesera. And the Dafka Belchut Torah but rather at the end in Parshas Brachos. And this is also emphasizing that it really was less about the specific marriage between Yitzchak and Rivka, and more about the general marriage between the Jewish people and God, or Ma and Ban. Yuchud Ma v'Ban v'shleima zegula. And again, Moshiach, this will be complete. Because then the complete service will bring about its completion. That's why we say in Likutei Torah, it's at the end, showing the importance of the completion of it. And after the explanation of Shir Hashirim, also talking about the marriage between God and the Jewish people. Again, connecting Ma and Ban. The true and complete redemption. All these things will manifest. In addition to this, Sefer Likuti Torah Parshas Vayikra, we see in Likuti Torah and Parshas Vayikra, is Ba'ar in Shlichus Lemaila, as explained according to the Sheikhs we said above. And every one of us is an emissary of our upper man, our Dam El Yoin. He's the one who sent us, so to speak, meaning our up above in the upper worlds, in the world of Atzilus, where our Esser Sfirot. Above that is we have the Esser Sfirot Haganuzot. Those are the hidden Esser Sfirot. Pretty cool stuff. But our energy in a state of perfection exists above. And that's what I just said a second ago, that the other goal is to reconnect to the origins of our soul, to achieve a state of oneness with our true identity, what we call our authentic self. In the vernacular of self-healing and therapy work, we have an authentic self and we have an adaptive self. The authentic self is the real us, what we call an inner child that is locked inside a life of adaptive self, that we have taken on roles in order to appease mothers, fathers, friends, teachers, whatever it is. We put on an image, a false image of who we are. And the true work is to reclaim our authentic self, or wonder child, they call it, an inner child and IFS systems. And that's also an all-in type of work. It's you can't sort of connect to who you are and not. You're either a representation of your true self or you're not. You're living in a sense of falsehood, of disconnect, discord with your true identity. And God sent our soul down here below into our physical body in order to fulfill our mission in this world. Again, this is like an emissary from our upper man, that we are here to reconnect to our true selves. Because it's all about, the end of Likuti Torah is all about connecting these energies of Ma and Ban, which is reflecting again how this marriage is really a general marriage. It's not just two Jews getting together. It's a very important marriage, ultimately representing us and God, that will be revealed when Mashiach comes. Test. Now we're going to talk a little bit about this idea of Mashiach himself being a shliach. Moshiach hu hashliach sha'ayidei nifal shleimas inin hashlichos uhurma v'ban, and that Mashiach's identity as a shliach and his work will be complete when Ma and Ban are reunited, or reunified, if you will. Which is the mission of God, of why he created the world, and of Mashiach, of why God sent Mashiach into the world, to bring about the unification of soul and bodies, the Jewish people representing the body and God representing the soul, and to show how we are truly one. Them in this physical world, to bring about the complete revelation of God in this physical world. And the whole world will be transformed into a dwelling place for God. God, not Gad. Did I call him Gad? God. Mashiach himself is a representative or an emissary of God. To unify these two energies, Ma and Ban. And him himself represent these two energies, soul and body, Basar Radan. He's a person of flesh and blood, as the Rambam says. Yuchud edzeh shluchal shel Adam elyoin kamocho mamash. Literally, to unify both of these energies inside him. It says Mashiach is like, kind of like, it says like Moshe, half man, half God. God. Complete physical with complete spiritual, if you will. In order to bring about the unification of the souls and bodies of all the Jewish people, and unifying the spiritual and physical matters in the world. Okay, good. Al pi zeh yuvan hataychen shah bekeshes Moshe shlach nabi mayat yishlach. And now we return to the original question. And Moshe said to God, "Why don't you send the one by the hand of send the Redeemer by the hand of who you're going to send? In other words, send Mashiach. Don't send me." And Moshe really meant God to bring this about in actuality. He's saying, bring about the completion, bring Moshiach now, so that my mission and Mashiach's mission can be completed together. That Moshe's main identity, we say, is what Chokhmah, which is connected to the Torah, which is the sphere of Chokhmah. Excuse me. Shechroi Torah Moshe Avdi. Moshe Kibel Torah Misana. Moshe represents Torah. Mashiach Matzar Atzmai in Malchus, and Mashiach represents the last sphere, or Malchus. Yoindoid Melech ben David, and the king will rise from the house of David. It's just talking about Malchus, meaning the lowest. So Moshe represents this energy, if you will, of Ma, or of the highest spiritual energy, which is the Torah. And Mashiach represents this lowest physical energy, which is the physical world. Yesh Lamar, there is to say, oh, the Rechayilud ben Mala Mishpia, well, Chachma, Rosh Hasfirois, Mala Makadmo Malchus. Each one has an advantage. We have Chachma, which is the Mishpia, which is the giving light, and Malchus, which is the receiver or the receiving light. Al derech haluk ben or hashemesh, and they're compared to the sun, which is the Mishpia or Chachma, and the moon, which is the Makabel or Mashiach. Moshe kibel Torah Sinai Masra, and Moshe received the Torah from Sinai. Who kibel as kol het Torah received the whole Torah. Shehi makor kol hashba'is, and his job is to disseminate or diffuse that energy, that wisdom from above. Including bringing about the power, if you will. Like there's the upper energy, the power, if you will. And we say Mashiach, Goach Haron is the last Redeemer. That he's the completion of the service, which is connected to Malchus, the end of the Sphirot, right? We know that there's 7 Rebbeim, and our Rebbe is connected to Malchus, the final. That's why there's no Rebbes after our Rebbe, because the Rebbe is the final. He's the Redeemer. There's no sphere after Malchus. It's the lowest. And the job of Malchus is to receive all the energy that's coming above. It's like the sun and the moon. Chochmah and Malchus. Moshe and Mashiach. In a way, we say that the light of the Makabel, of the receiver, can reach a higher level than the light of that's giving. And this will be revealed in the true and complete redemption, right? It's the concept that we say, or Yashar, or B'chayzer, the direct light and the returning light. The returning light is even more powerful than the direct light. And it says in times of Mashiach that the woman will surround the husband. Ma'al the haguf shel Yehudi, the Gabi HaNeshas, Dakabon Nimsa Klach Va'atzmas. That the physical body of a Jew comes from the very essence of God's being, and it will be higher than the soul. This is a common theme that we speak about, that is a a stretch of the brain, if you will. And that's why it says in the future to come, the soul will be nourished from the body. It's hard to comprehend that, but it's true. And therefore, specific Mashiach will bring about the redemption. The complete redemption that Moshe Rabbeinu was the start of. Wow, that's a heavy stuff. It's hard to understand because right now it's clear that the soul enlivens the body. When Mashiach comes, the body will enliven the soul. That the body of a Jew is higher and holier than the soul. It's hard to wrap your head around that because logically it doesn't make sense. Yesh Lord to say and therefore Moshe said to God, send the one by the hand you're going to send. Literally meaning the final Redeemer, Mashiach. And every Jew has both of these advantages. We have the advantage of Mashiach and of Moshe. And Mashiach also has both of these advantages. Melech, on one hand, he's a melech, and he's also a rav, chochmah. The Rebbe says this point many times, and it's a point that's unfortunately missed by a lot, even in our Lubavitch brethren. Why are you calling the Rebbe Mashiach? He's a Rebbe. He's a Rebbe, and he's the melech. He's a Rebbe connected to Rebbe, Rosh B'nai Yisrael, chochmah, and he's a melech. He's a king, connected to what we say is a makif energy or a malchus energy. It has to have both. And he will teach Torah to the entire nation, and that is his job as Moshe Rabbeinu, like Moshe. He will be a great Rebbe, a great rabbi, teaching wisdom from his brain. And at the same time, also Mashiach. Keter goes above the head. It has to be a makif power. You have to proclaim his kingship. It's not just enough to study his Torah. You have to have both. And Mashiach is the same gematria of Shliach plus 10. Shliach is an emissary, gematria 348. 10 is your soul powers. Shleimus Gilui Mashiach Ha'idei Shezeh B'Tzbata Es Avodas K'Shliach Es Kol Eser Koiches V'Nefesh Chochmah Ad Malchus. When you use all 10 of your soul powers, from Chochmah down to Malchus, your 10 Sfirot, and you combine 10 with 348, you're a Shliach, and you use all 10 of your powers, 358, Mashiach. Okay, now we're getting into the final meat and potatoes, if you will, of the Sikha. Some deep stuff we're going to finish off with. Yurov. Al pi yadua shekol Yehudi yesh bo mechinas Moshe ve'mechinas Mashiach. Every Jew has within them a spark of Moshe and a spark of Mashiach. And therefore, everything we discussed above is applicable to every single Jew. Every Jew is an emissary of God. The Shemesh es kono. I'm here to serve my master. And the general work of us is to light up the world. To light up the world with the light of God, the light of holiness. This encompasses two things. All just like the two great lights. More gadol, more katan. There's a big light and a small light. Avodas kameshpia, the service of the big light, like the sun. And the service of the small light, the receiver, like the moon. And this is how we light up the world. By being, let me continue inside because the Rebbe is going to talk about it. Specifically, we need both of these to be a proper shliach. Oh, wow. Ooh. Back is a little tight there. Aleph, bittul mishlach. We must be nullified to the one who sent us. And base, mitzias mifnatzmi. We have to have our own brain. We're not robots. Yitzar Alab Lamad Eshlichus Le'ir Es Haaretz. Our brain is a very important point. It's not up to us to think about why we're here. God tells us why we're here. The Rebbe gives us a mission where we have a clear purpose. It's up to us to figure out how to carry that purpose out. How we're going to bring Mashiach. Not how we're going to try to figure out why we're here or what we're supposed to do. We know that. The brain, that what makes us individuals is how we go about doing it. And therefore we must combine both of these energies of Mashiach and Moshe. And every Jew must bring about these two energies, these powers. And every work of a shliach must combine these two matters. In other words, we have to be completely aware that we're fulfilling the work of our master. And at the same time, we have to use our noodle to figure out the best way to do that. Okay. According to what we said above. The power to carry about our shliachs we can learn from the first shliach of the Torah. The emissary of Abraham, Eliezer, to bring about the marriage of Yitzchak and Rivka. And from this we can understand, just like Abraham gave everything he had to Eliezer to carry out this mission. In order to fulfill his shlichus in a complete way. All of his power had to be given to Eliezer to bring about this main point of unifying the energies of Ma and Ban through uniting Yitzchak and Rivka. Again, the main work here was not the marriage between Yitzchak and Rivka. That was a representation of the main work, which is to unify Ma and Ban, masculine and feminine energies. And every single Jew must realize that we are here only to serve our master. And therefore our master, God, is giving us all the power. The very essence and being God has placed inside every one of us. We said that. In order to fulfill our mission in this world, which is to connect souls and bodies, this physical world, with God. And all the details of our work must encompass this messaging and this task. An entire work we do must reflect and penetrate this main point, to reveal Mashiach, Yehud Ma V'Ban. And this is how we do it, through unifying Ma and Ban. Yud Beis. Because and all this applies specifically to our generation. Where we have a unique component to our shlichut. And every single one of us has been appointed by the leader of our generation, the Rebbe, to be his personal emissary. To spread out the wellsprings of Chassidus to the furthest corners of the world. Until we bring about the true and complete redemption. And in actuality, even someone who says, well, this doesn't apply to me, I'm just a simple Jew, what do you want from me? No, the Rebbe says every one of us is responsible for this work. I know why so many people don't want to learn the sichos, because they're demanding. The Rebbe puts you to work. You don't learn these sikhs and then just say, "Oh, that was very nice." You got to get cracking. Shenoisef la'avodas aishis mutlas alav acharis niyosh shliach lahashpia. Every one of us is an emissary to influence. Call acharim, all those in our surrounding areas, including our house, our sons and our daughters, Avera, Vididas, our friends and our neighbors. And anyone we can reach. That's our mission. In addition, and specifically, oh, something in my back stuck. Wow. Whew. Am Yisrael guf hem nitcharo liyoy shluchim shall nasi derein. B'cha evodesoi b'cha ma'alas la'at kulo mekesheres namayla nisrum v'chutz v'chutz. The Rebbe said every one of us is an emissary, a representative of God to fulfill this work. And then there are those that are actually shluchim. In other words, this is what you do for a living. This is how you make your parnassah. This is how you pay your bills, by being a full-time emissary. And for those, it's a 24-hour job, even more so than everyone else, to bring about the unification of Ma and Ban and to bring about Gula. How much more so we say that we just said that right now, the Kinas Shluchim, those who are there who are representing, and this is their full-time job. Okay, their job is even more important because that's what they do full-time. Yud Gimel. But it applies to all of us. You know, say, well, I'm not a Shliach, I'm just no, everyone. Yud Gimel b'zeh. And in this matter itself, in every single generation, every year, this applies specifically to the shluchim in this gathering of emissaries. And this applies even more so in this particular year. Excuse me. Where the main work now is on the final Redeemer and what we must do to bring about and effectuate Mashiach's arrival. And as we said above, from the leader of our generation, that the general service is complete. We're all standing and ready. The Kabbalah is Panei Mashiach Tzikenu, to greet and welcome our righteous Redeemer. And everyone is fitting for this work. No one could claim that they're not part of this or that they're not fitting. And if you look around, you see all the signs in the world are readily apparent, and that the redemption is upon us. Including the main signs of the time of your redemption has arrived. And one of the signs is that the nations of the world will be fighting one amongst another. But specifically the Arab nations that will be fighting and warring against each other, which was taking place very strongly at that point in time. And it's starting up again. And it's gonna heat up, by the way. I don't want to frighten anyone, but you can see that it's a boiling pot. Things are about to boil over in a pretty wild way. Especially as we finish up the past year. Tafshin Nun Aleph. The year I will show you wonders. And we're entering into the new year. Wonders in everything. Wonders inside of everything. And we see that Mashiach is fighting the wars of Hashem right now. But the Zohar HaKodesh explains that the wars Mashiach fights against the nations of the world are not the ground below. He's fighting their ministry angels above. And when the ministry angels above fall, the whole nation below falls. 'Cause, 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 Nitchainu Malasha Nitzchias, and we will be victorious. Kisharim Gilui Shal Netza, and it will be revealed as victory. Gilui Shar Nun, which is Nun from Netzach, which is the 50th gate. Tzamach Shara Tzaddik, they're in the year of Tzamach, the year the Rebbe's birthday that year. And Ches, Gilui Shal Mashiach Tzikenu Kashra Mispar Shmona, that Ches represents 8, which is redemption. And from this we can understand שמאחר השליחים עומדים כבר מזמן לאחר מילוי התחילת עבודת השליחוס וחפוץ התורה וחורס חפוץ ונצח חוץ. In addition to the general work of the shlichus, of spreading out the wellsprings of Chassidus, מזמן לאחר אמצע עבודת השליחוס, and we are already, that was the beginning of the work, as the Baal Shem Tov put upon us, and we're already past the middle of the work, and we're already at the end of the work. As hashlichos, and therefore we are at the completion of our shlichut. Nevertheless, the true and complete redemption is not here. The Rebbe said in many places that we've already started redemption, but it is not complete. And therefore we must say, there must be something left that is missing to bring about the true and complete redemption in actuality. And in every generation, one person is fit to be the Redeemer, to be Mashiach. Allah, and that he is the righteous individual who is the Mashiach of the generation. And when the time reaches and it is the right time, then he will redeem us. And according to what we said from the leader of our generation, the main shliach and the only one of the generation is the leader. And Mashiach of our generation, that all of our work is done. And therefore, it is time that we already see the beginning of the fulfillment of that God is sending Mashiach. And the shlichus of the leader of our generation. And therefore, the only thing that is remaining and the only final thing that is left in order to fulfill all of our work is, take a wild guess, the Kabbalah es Panei Mashiach Tzikenu b'fall, to accept and greet Mashiach in actuality. And we must fulfill this final shlichus in actuality. And every single one of the Jewish people must be involved in this work. That's it. Just reveal Mashiach, accept him in our lives. That's all that's left. Shabbat Parshas Chayasar. It's Hashgacha Pratis that we find ourselves in Shabbos Parshas Chayasar. Shabbat Kira Oidois Hashlichos Shlach Avraham Es Eliezer and Nesuim Yitzchak Verivka, which we speak about, of course, the bringing about of the Shlichos of Eliezer to marry Yitzchak and Rivka. Shazad Noisen Koach L'Kol Inin Hashlichos, and this gave the power to all further Shlichot. Specifically, Shleimos Inin Hashlichos Shel Mashiach Tzikenu, the completion of the work of Mashiach, to bring about redemption. And as we stand here in Shabbos Mavarchim for the month of Kislev, the month of redemption, the month of the giving of the innermost dimension of the Torah, the third month in the counting from the beginning, from Tishrei. In addition to this, the Mata represents the energy of Mashiach from below to above. Heart, come from the earth, the Neshama V'guf, soul and a body. And literally from the physical earth, the Gashmius Nasa Eid. His job is to elevate all the physical matters from below to above. Says that the Spirit of God was hovering over the waters. This is referring to Mashiach. Ma'achra shnifat yeh b'torah nishmasu v'kaveh kadosh admor nasin b'fol mamash neshama b'guf v'chapes asal panei hamayim. Okay, Yud Dalid. זה בו התורה פועל שיש לו היצר בעמדנו עתה בתחילה בתחילה של כנס השלוחים מאוד. And to finish up the opening remarks as we stand here in front of the emissaries of the Rebbe from the whole world, we call the Rosh first of all. צריך לצייס וחריזס עבודה לכל השליחוס. To once again announce that we must be we must move quickly to complete the end of our shlichot. Which is the final work incumbent upon us now of every single Jew, and must express this matter to accept and greet and welcome Mashiach in our lives. So furthermore, we must say, the general service of the shlichus is to spread out the well springs of Chassidus. The Kabbalah Mashiach Tzikenu, and that's the general work. But specifically, it must lead up to this one point, which is to accept and greet Mashiach. Kamugash. Oh, it took a while. Okay, we're finishing up anyways. Kumurgash ben noisa hakenis, and we see this emphasized in the kinnis. Call you Mashiach. Every day of your life must exist to bring Mashiach. Calling in and all the matters of your service must reflect this point. Lahavi the most of Mashiach, to bring about the days of Mashiach. Loy rak the revois, not just in general. Oimer mahacha shemashiach yavo es hazeh yitah chelak v'zeh v'nam v'zeh. Other havia must be encompassing, literally, to bring. Who and everything is dependent upon this point, to bring about the days of Mashiach. Lashon Rabim, lo rak yom echad, not just to bring about the beginning of Mashiach, because the Rebbe already said we're in the starting stages of Mashiach. That's why he emphasizes in the Sikha that we haven't reached the complete redemption, but we started the redemption. Yemot HaMashiach, literally, meaning the days of Mashiach. And the general intention is that everyone here, all the shluchim, must take upon themselves good resolutions. That every single shliach must do what is incumbent upon himself to reach every single Jew in all the places in his city, in order to instruct them to literally greet and welcome Mashiach. And all these matters connected to Mashiach. And they should be learning and understanding everything you can about Mashiach. Mashiach, as it's written in the written Torah, mitkabel alav, and everyone to learn in such a way that they can comprehend it, that it makes sense to them. Specifically, must learn about matters of Mashiach and Geula, specifically in the way of Chachma, Bina, and Das. What is Chachma, Bina, and Das? Is Chabad. So you should be learning all the matters about Mashiach specifically through Chabad Chassidus, which is what we do here every single week on Monday. Learn about Mashiach and Geula, exactly as the Rebbe is instructing to do. And the main work that we must do now. This is applies to every Jew. No one can fall out of this, no exceptions. No one could say, oh, I'm not such a... No, every single one of us. Tes Vav, final letter. The Hiratzon, may it be God's will. That every one of the shluchim, every one of the emissaries must fulfill his mission in a complete way. With all 10 of his soul powers. Yizbata v'chinas, but specifically the shluchim that are here at this convention. That every single one of here is a true shliach, true representative. And when he uses all 10 of his soul power, to do the work of Mashiach, and the main shliach, the leader of our generation, including fulfilling the work of those that came before him. Including the previous Rebbe and his father. And we have the completion of all 7 generations, like the 7 branches of the menorah. Again, it's not a coincidence that the 7th Rebbe is Malchus, our Rebbe. The 7th and final, as we already said, is Mashiach, which is Malchus. There's no further Rebbes. And further and mainly, that we are already at the completion, at the end of our shlichus. And every one of us must carry out the mission of the true one who sent us, which is Hashem himself. God will certainly send. When we fulfill our job, God will surely fulfill his and send our Redeemer immediately. And even if still there is some type of a doubt, that Hashem is going to strengthen us for sure as we stand in the final moments of the exile. And the great power and spirit that Hashem is giving to us in these final times. And we have to do everything the owner of the house says, except when he tells us to leave. And Hashem is the owner of the house. And God forbid that we should last one more minute and to be separated from the work of our Father. And every one of us is an emissary of God, of the hand of the one who is sending us, God himself. And it will be with a strong hand. And then we will already be in the true and complete redemption. Together with the completion of our service and our shlichus. And then we will bring about the true completion of the marriage, between God and the Jewish people. And then the woman will surround the man. That, so to speak, the Jewish people will be above, and we will crown God. The Kol Yehudi v'Kol Yehudim, every single one of us together, all of us, including all of our work. V'hu molich es Kol Yisrael la'eretz hakodesh, and we will all travel to the holy land of Israel, to Yerushalayim Har Kodesh, to the holy city of Jerusalem, the Har Kodesh, to the holy mountain, the Beis Hamikdash Shlishi, v'od v'hu v'ikar techam yad mamish. The main thing that should happen right now. On the name of Moreno v'Rabbeinu Malach HaMashiach l'Moed. Chavre, we need to bring Mashiach. Every one of us has to dig deep into our 10 soul powers and think about what we can do that has not already been done to bring about the true and complete redemption. And surely we could scream out to God and we could demand that he brings Mashiach right now. And God willing, even before we get to Shabbos, we should all be in Yerushalayim with Mashiach himself, celebrating the Beis Hamikdash Shlishi. God bless you, Moshiach Now.